Welcome back. We're still in Chapter 1 on the heart and diving, looking at exercise. And in this part, we will be looking at physical activity recommendations. Keep watching. An individual's peak aerobic capacity is expressed as the maximum oxygen uptake while engaged in all-out exercise. It is abbreviated as VO2 max. In other words, the maximum extraction of oxygen. Measuring VO2 max, at least accurately, requires strict protocols and can only really be performed in performance labs, in sports settings, or in pulmonary labs. The procedure itself is called maximal exercise testing. Now, conducting these tests is time-consuming and is expensive, so they are only used in special situations. Let's therefore look at some of the indirect ways in which we can estimate exercise intensity, because it does allow us to make at least a reasonable guess and an estimation of an individual's activities, heart rate, and respiratory rate. And this can be done in several ways. The easiest is the talk test. If an average healthy person can talk but not sing while exercising, that activity is considered to be of moderate intensity. A person engaged in vigorous intensity activity is not able to say more than a few words without pausing for a breath. If you must gasp for air and cannot talk what is considered to be moderate intensity exercise, it means that your physical capacity is below average. Then there's the heart rate test. Your heart rate rises in a regular fashion as the intensity of the activity increases, all the way up to the maximum predicted heart rate, which declines as you age. You can figure out the average maximum heart rate for healthy individuals by taking your age and then subtracting that from 220. For example, if the maximum heart rate for a 50-year-old would be calculated as 220 minus 50, it would mean that 170 beats per minute is their maximum heart rate. You can then use that and compare that to the actual heart rate when they do various intensity activities and thereby estimate the maximum exercise capacity. Experts often recommend reaching and sustaining a certain heart rate to improve and maintain fitness. First of all, the submaximal exercise test. This test can be used to figure out what maximum exercise capacity you can achieve without exceeding about 85% of the estimated maximum heart rate for your age. Conducting such a test calls for gradually increasing the exercise intensity based on a defined protocol, while your heart rate is being monitored. When you reach your target heart rate, you stop exercising and your maximum exercise capacity can be extrapolated using various methods. However, because of variations in the relationship between heart rate and exercise intensity due to age, fitness level, and other factors, an indirect estimation of maximum aerobic capacity has limited value, but nevertheless is still clinically valuable to assess an individual's tolerance to exercise and the likelihood of having ischemic heart disease. Now let's look at some physical activity recommendations as it relates to adults. Adults need two types of regular activities to maintain and improve their health: aerobics and strength training. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's 2008 Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans recommends at least 2.5 hours a week of moderate intensity aerobic exercise to achieve basic health benefits. So that's the bare minimum. And 5 hours a week to achieve additional fitness benefits. Just as important is engaging in muscle strengthening activities at least 2 days a week. Physical activities are commonly classified by intensity into one of the following 4 categories. Sedentary behavior, which essentially means couch potato, and minimal exercise activity, a resting state. And included in this activity is sleeping, sitting, lying down, watching television, and so on. Such activities really only require about 1 to 1.5 METs. Light intensity physical activity, which is often grouped with sedentary behavior but is in fact a distinct activity level, involves energy expenditure between 1.6 and 2.9 METs and raises heart rate to less than about 50% of one's maximum heart rate. It encompasses such activities as slow walking, desk work, cooking, and washing dishes. Moderate intensity physical activity increases the heart rate between 50 and 70% of one's maximum heart rate. For example, a 50-year-old would have a maximum predicted heart rate of about 170 beats per minute, so the 50 to 70% level would be a heart rate of between 85 and 119 beats per minute. That means moderate intensity activity for 50-year-olds is one that keeps their heart rate between those two, 85 to 119 beats per minute. By contrast, 30-year-olds have an estimated heart rate of 190 beats per minute, making moderate intensity activity for them somewhere between 95 and 133 beats per minute. Vigorous intensity activity involves an increase between 70 and 85% of one's maximum heart rate. So, to keep it interesting, we use a different age. A 60-year-old's heart rate should be kept between 122 and 126 beats per minute, whereas 25-year-olds, it would be between 136 and 167 beats per minute. Detailed physical activity recommendations can easily be found at the reference site given below. Now we come to an important aspect of fitness and diving, and that is the pre-activity screening. Engaging in physical activity is beneficial for one's health, but making a transition from a sedentary lifestyle to being physically active or increasing one's accustomed level of activity may be associated with increased risk, especially in individuals with pre-existing heart disease. Scuba diving typically involves only moderate intensity physical activity, but situations may occur that require high intensity activity. In addition, scuba diving challenges the cardiovascular system in a variety of ways that may be life-threatening for individuals with heart disease or with a low capacity for exercise. A common pre-activity screening tool, which is recommended by the Recreational Scuba Training Council, or RSTC, in their medical statement, says that it is necessary that the following chronic and acute diseases be identified and, if they are present, be properly assessed by a physician, ideally someone trained in diving medicine. If prospective divers have any of the listed conditions, they are advised to get proper assessment. Most operators use the RSTC form to screen customers and check for these conditions. If you do not find that form or don't have access to it, call the Dan hotline or email us and we'll send it to you so that you can familiarize yourself with the recommendations of that form. Remember, it is of the utmost importance for you to be honest in filling out the questionnaire. You hold the keys to your safe participation in any physical activity, including scuba diving. And it's not only about you. Remember that you have an obligation to your buddy and your buddy to you. So there's a social responsibility to be fit and able to assist a buddy in need. Regardless of medical condition, men age 45 and older and women age 50 and older are advised to review their health annually with their primary care physician. And all divers with any risk factors for cardiac disease should see their primary care physician before engaging in diving and should be sure to follow any advice they are given. That is the end of this particular section. We've got one more to go in chapter 1. Thank you for following so far, and we hope that the advice that we've given will inspire you and encourage you to maintain physical fitness, making your dives safer and more enjoyable. Join us and subscribe to this channel, post your comments, and follow us on Facebook or Twitter, and call the hotline if you have a particular medical question. Thank you for supporting Dan and for committing yourself to diving fitness.